You guys, it's probably already all over the news and you're kind of aware if you've been following it at all, and if you haven't been following, Brandon Truax of the DECIEM company did post on the Instagram that the company will be closing down for 2 to 3 months, not giving any real explanation. It set a lot of kind of way out there remarks on his Instagram. That was originally his last post 2 days ago, but now he's posted some other stuff. I think he's closed down the comments. In that post, he cited internal problems, criminal activity. He also was pointing at a whole bunch of companies, and I will put that up here. If you don't know already, he took over his company's Instagram account. He owns DECIEM company. He is the full owner and the founder of DECIEM. He also had a co-CEO, Nicola Kilner. And then he fired her, but I think he kind of rehired her again. Everything's quite erratic. There's a lot of kind of accusations in his post, very strange accusations to a lot of beauty companies, including a Canadian pharmaceutical company. And it's quite damaging, and it sounds very erratic. This was a number of months ago. He took over the Instagram. Instead of allowing his professional publicist to be doing, marketing people to be doing it, he took it over. Ever since then, the Instagram account has become quite controversial. He seemed kind of erratic in it. I noticed this and I had my thoughts on it. My problem is that I was wondering why people weren't commenting on that enough. I think they were, but they didn't know what the source of it was. And I really believe, after watching the progression of this, I felt that he has some sort of mental health issues, and that's the thing. Thank goodness we're having, because I think because of the most recent suicide losses of very famous people that we loved and adored, is brought to light suicide prevention, and that's really being brought out in the forefront, and I'm so thankful. The other side of that is we also need that same push for mental health awareness, not to label people, but to use it as a tool to help people in need. Whether you are a very important owner and founder of a company like Brandon Truax, or you're the least of us, whom we think are the least but are still very precious and equal in value, the ones that are forgotten, we all need that help and intervention. And I really do believe Brandon needs that help and intervention right now. I do believe, from what I was seeing from the beginning, that I thought he was suffering from some sort of bipolar disorder, which the old-fashioned term used to be called manic depression. Now it's called bipolar disorder, and it's a flight from mania, feeling very grandiose, very powerful, being very, very energetic. You speed talk a lot, you have flights of talk, you're going all over the place, you're doing a whole lot of crazy things. And then if you go very manic, you can get quite delusional. You can get illusions of grandeur, you can get paranoia and persecutory paranoia, and you can swing then the other way to depression. There's also mixed episodes. There are also episodes where it's mixed with anxiety. You can have a very anxious mania, you can have a very paranoid mania, and I believe he was going through a lot of hypomania, and now I believe he's really spinning out into full-blown delusional, persecutory, paranoid mania. Sometimes there can be kind of tiny little truths to something that he said, but then it's blown out of crazy proportion into a huge storyboard and a huge conspiracy theories, which is very typical. Also, people who do have bipolar disorder, and it can be used for great things. That is, they have go on crusades. They want to help, they want to do things, and then they're constantly going on all these crusades that can turn into tirades. That can be quite concerning when it's brought into a proper place and you have the proper medical treatment, possible medication, that can be tempered into something very, very positive, which is what Brandon did in building the company that he built. Now Estee Lauder has a 28% stake in that company, and they are concerned because of all that's been going on. They are filing an injunction to take control, put Nicola Kilner as the CEO to lead this company so it doesn't fall apart. In the meanwhile, my concern also is that, especially with people that are that powerful, I would like to have seen more people be concerned of Brandon and his well-being. Now, the problem is that people that are that powerful, they're very talented, they're very genius, they have been riding on that power for a long time, all their lives, so they feel they have maybe a sense of pride and a sense of, I can do this by myself, I don't need help, because they've never had to need help. And then suddenly they hit a wall in this, and because you're manic, you don't have much insight, you're feeling fantastic in it. If you don't have a anxious mania, you don't feel you need any help whatsoever. It becomes very challenging for people, even normal people will have that, to get the help that they need, or to have people help to intervene to help them to get the help that they need. But it becomes even more compounded when you are that powerful and that intelligent, and that because those things get magnified even more. They don't want to receive help, they don't want help, and what they're able to do is control their environment, knock out the people that are trying to help them, and only put in their puppets around them to shield them. And unfortunately, they can knock them out by going, well, you're not going to be my employee anymore, you're not going to be my assistant, I'm not going to work with you anymore, those kind of things. I really admonish. I know Brandon has some good friends, I know Brandon has a good family. I admonish everybody around, great colleagues, there's a whole bunch of wonderful colleagues there, to really help him somehow. Probably he's blocking you guys out, but if not, if you can help him in any way, to encourage him, intervene, do an intervention to help him to get the help that he needs. He did get some help in the UK. They did kind of force him to get help for a couple of days in a mental health facility, and then in Canada the same thing. He went into to get help in a mental health facility. Didn't stay there very long, so it's not long enough for him to be stabilized, and if he's not willing to take his medication and stabilize himself or slow it down until he gets stabilized, it's not going to be good. There's a lot of fallout that happens with that, and so I understand Estee Lauder's take on trying to file an injunction in order for that fallout to be tempered. All the merchandisers, the suppliers, the companies that help distribute, that they're not all falling, it can be a domino effect. So being able to take over to control that. Apparently he may be leaking some more private information that shouldn't be public. So all these things need to be tempered until he gets the help that he needs. So I hope that gets done. I mean, he even listed a company in that Instagram thing. He listed a whole bunch of companies. He listed names, he listed people, he listed, oh my goodness, he even listed the generic medication company that produces wonderful generic drugs, Apotex, and I rely on Apotex. Apotex saved my life and is still saving my life to this day. I love Apotex because they are a generic medication company that produces generic medications that are top of the line. Years ago, when I used to take medication before for a little while, I would know when I was taking a generic, when they slipped me a generic drug, when I was asking for the brand, and they would slip the generic, because it wouldn't work as well. It wasn't as effective, and it had an uptick in side effects on top of that. So then I would go back to the pharmacist and say, oh, no, I want the brand name, and they would correct it for me. That is one of the problems of generic drugs. But with this Apotex, man, they make some good generic drugs. Top of the line, highly effective. They don't have an uptick in side effects. So I really love this company. So I don't know why Brandon called them out. The really sad thing about Apotex is that the owner Barry Sherman and his wife Honey Sherman were murdered last year, December. So it's been almost a year now that this has happened. And they were murdered in their home. Initially, it was thought to believe a murder-suicide, but family brought in the top lawyer, and the top lawyer brought in retired detectives that became private investigators, and then brought in one of the chiefs of coroners that used to be worked for the doing autopsies and stuff, brought that person back in, who now works at Sick Kids Hospital, brought Dr. Chiazon to redo the autopsy in a better facility and look at it more closely, and then they decided it was actually a double murder. They're still trying to find out who did this. I mean, Barry Sherman did have a number of enemies because of him obviously making generic drugs, and the big brands don't like it. So I don't know why Brandon mentioned them. They are and still are an amazing company, and it's such a tragedy. It's still a tragedy to this day because the killer has not been found yet. So that is still an ongoing investigation. Nonetheless, just remember, people are human, whether they're amazing geniuses or whether they're people, forgotten, precious people that we overlook. Everybody is precious, and anybody is spinning out of control that you notice that needs help, help them. Even if they're really important people, even if they're not really important people, help them. Look out, see if they need any help, see if they're calling out for help, but not in the most obvious of ways. The way Brandon is doing, it's not obvious. He's not saying help me, but he's acting in a way where he needs the help and the intervention. If we can remember also those things in our push for suicide prevention, because one of the things is bipolar disorder is one of those mental health issues that causes suicide. It's one of the higher ones in the mental health. It's depression, it's schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and bipolar disorder. So when you're helping them, even if they're not right at the edge, you're still helping them, because they're still at the edge. They're imploding their lives, and they may be imploding other people's lives at the same time. So remember that, not just for suicide prevention, which is so important, but if you can catch it even earlier before you even get there, how much better is that, right? How much better is that? So let's be aware of our surroundings and the people around us. And Brandon, I really hope you get the help that you need and you stick it out. You know, stick it out, because you're a brilliant, talented, wonderful individual that blessed us so deeply, and we want those blessings to continue for yourself and for everybody else. Y'all, this was heavy. This is my take on it. I wanted to kind of have my say because I just felt it was needed. I wanted it to shine a light on mental health issues, you know, and I just felt it was needed right now. So anyway, God bless you guys, and keep on going and keep on glowing.